Once upon a time, there was a protagonist who is an office worker, lives with his mother and takes care of his disabled sister. But for his luck, all that would change with the arrival of the MMORPG game Idea. When trying the game, he falls asleep in a part of his adventure because he needed to rest a little. When he woke up, he slept 10,000 hours, and with this, he had reached the level of rank god, descendant of Tathanos, god of death, and now he is way powerful than Shaggy at 0.2% of his power. We start this story in the center of the Hamelpiece mountain, where Agni, the knight of the fire dragon with a fire-resistant armor, is walking. The reason why he is there is because there is a legendary item that can only be obtained in that place, the heart of the fire dragon. On his way to the dragon, he finds a person who was sleeping, covered with a sheet halfway there as if nothing, and he starts to get upset because he notices that this guy had all legendary level equipment. But he wouldn't let him get carried away to get something from him, just because he is helpless in that position. He decides to attack him as he sees fit because he doesn't recognize him as one of the top 100 players, so he has to try an attack. He launches a fire dragon charge, but the guy on the ground dodged it in a very absurd way, just moving sideways, still asleep. But suddenly something activates, an ability called Sleepwalk, so you know what's coming. The sleeper attacks with everything, so much that he even dodges all the attacks of Agni, who uses his fire dragon skill shield and thought it was enough for one attack. But he received an attack that can't be dodged or blocked, making as a side effect that he was stunned for 1 second. The sleeping guy took the opportunity to end his life with a thrust in the neck. Fulminated by that, Agni had to log off for dying, so he disappeared. It was his end and left a sword along with a loot, but the sleeper did not care and continued in his business. A few hours later, awakened and then surprised, he didn't even know that his ability was active, and now he has these 3 gifts. Happy because it will help him to continue surviving. We see that when he goes to face the dragon, he knows his name, Hyumsung, but we will call him Hyum for the panas. We also see that for his level, he is a descendant of Thanatos, god level, so our boy sets off on his adventure. But it wasn't all that nice, because in the next chapter, the one before this, where we see that he arrives late for work, which his colleagues are seeing how the boss scolds him, because he is very clever and popular with the girls and has reached a good level of promotion. But you can see that he is not having a very good time, because he is doing this job to pay the hospital fees where his sister was for the incident she had. But that his desire to leave is growing more and more because it doesn't make him happy, because he is only paying attention to his boss. He goes for coffee, you know, things without much sense, but anyway. The night comes, and when he arrives home and a woman mentions that he was going out because he was going to his night shift, the house where he arrives is the one his parents left. He and his sister live together. But a 20-year-old things have not been easy, and he has not lived a normal life, working early and many extra hours. His sister matured so fast that he didn't enjoy his years as they should have been. He felt tired, but he had to show good face to his sister because that car accident 6 years ago left many important marks, because she saw her parents die in a sad way, and she thinks it's her fault since she begged them to go out to dinner that night. But nowadays they have learned to move forward, and she believes that it is thanks to this game, thanks to a recommendation from a doctor, the Idea game, that sent you to another land. In that, he leaves his sister in his room, and when he goes out to her, it turns out that he bought a capsule of those used to enter the game. But he bought his own because in the game 1 hour is 5 hours. He slept there for 22 hours, a hack to rest more. In that, he comes up with the idea of making money through the game, as it is considered an industry, but he prefers not to think about immature things, so he decides that it is better to sleep a little in the game. He enters Idea and goes to the beginning of the adventure where the tutorial is. He goes to a hut literally just to sleep. To his surprise, he slept more than 10,000 hours, making him level up to descendant of Thanatos, level god. He wakes up and we see that by fate, Hyun slept many hours and everything about him went up a lot. Stats, amount of money collection. He leaves the game to go to breakfast and we see that the relationship with his sister has also improved, thanks to the game. Everything is going so well. That's when it's his turn to go to work. That same day, he presents his resignation letter. Obviously, the boss doesn't understand anything and believes that it was because of the previous day. His colleagues believe that he didn't deserve the scolding for being someone so good. When he leaves, everything will be harder. The boss tells him that he will pretend that nothing happened and go back to work. He also tells him that he has to think about his younger sister and what will happen if he resigns. This makes Hyun angry and he just thanks him for everything and hopes to never see his boss face again. He leaves the office and thinks that he won the lottery. He has a chance to do what he likes and earn money. He goes to the cyber cafe to play the idea game. They arrive and there is a warning that after level 100 it is very difficult to level up. He rents a capsule for 8 hours and enters idea. When he enters, he appears in the bed where he slept the last time and starts to think about his abilities and everything he will have to do from now on, having the Thanatos level. And so, our protagonist spends his time seeing the abilities and objects that he can buy with his new level. He is able to use weapons of any level, all-terrain the Hyun, in that the ability Necrolapsia is activated, which makes him fall asleep by force against his own will, making him have to leave the capsule and pay and leave the place where he was. From there, we go now to the rehabilitation sessions of her sister, where after the practices her brother calls her because when he arrived home he didn't see her there. Due to the fact that she went by herself, after talking for a while when her sister returns home with her brother. The girl who takes care of the house leaves and now only both are left talking about that Hyun has resigned from her job, and her sister is very happy about this decision. She confesses that she has also earned money for idea, that she is in the top 1000 in the world. She is number 331, something that Hyun obviously didn't know. She earns so much money that she can even pay for her own treatments. After a big talk, Hyun promises her that in 3 months he'll be at the top. He goes straight to play idea. He goes to the portal and enters the tutorial, where his first weapon is a beginner's sword. Besides, his stats grow a lot when he sleeps, something very powerful for this class, but well, let's go to the tutorial. His first opponent comes out, which is a scarecrow. He cuts it in half with a single slash, thus getting the achievement Monstrous Rookie. His skills increase. After this comes the option to go to the village he wants. He decides to go to the DHA village, where there are level 30 or 40 orcs, where there are probably no beginners, and there if you can level up more at ease, so let's go! We are set in DHA town, where not many foreigners or players come to visit, making it a bit boring. The reason for these areas are these creatures called lime slime. These creatures have a hard to see a tiny core to damage, which defeats the newbies. It is not a really deadly creature, just spits acid that melts the hair and some of the skin. Suddenly, lightning strikes in the middle of the village. It is our protagonist. All the people are surprised because it's been a long time since anyone visited, although they are disappointed by the appearance of the town and leave. Hyun came to the town to climb a few levels because he heard that there were orcs in the area. Although the guards underestimate them and send him to the slime zone, Hyun easily defeats. Not satisfied, he returns and asks about the orcs. The guards underestimated him again and tell him to value his life because he could go die if he went to the orc zone. They even give him money as a beggar so he doesn't go. The disgruntled protagonist decides to look for the orc zone by himself. On the way, he can see some footprints. That indicated he was on the right track. Suddenly, a red orc appears. He is ready to kill Hyun. He can see that the orcs are smart and know how to move, but they were launching many unnecessary attacks. Hyun defeats it and they start to appear one after another. It was like a party for him. He was leveling up like crazy and it was easy for him to kill him. Hyun kills around 50 of them. Besides, he had heard that their skin and so on were selling very well. He goes to sell the orc parks. They had been surprised at the amount he had killed. They couldn't believe how this guy had done it. Even so, the protagonist receives a good payment. Too good, he would say. Then Hyun goes on to keep leveling up. He kept killing orcs until a point where he didn't level up much anymore, and the items the orc left were of lower grade. But he was satisfied with the level he had increased. Hyun sits down to check his stats. He had increased enough to have the DP, which is like a roulette wheel inside a roulette wheel. In this game, this roulette wheel randomly throws items at you, from very good to very bad. As Hyun spins the wheel, he initially gets some pretty good items, until the machine starts throwing some bad items at him. From a feign, he doesn't know how to use an egg that has no specifications for use. As Hyun keeps spinning and fighting with the machine, we see that he is being watched in a kind of monitoring system by some men in suit. It's about hell. It's the company that created the game. They are discussing because they can't explain how someone is dominated by his own control. His case is unique. It's a very low probability that such a player exists. They also don't know why someone like him who just started to play was so incredibly good at the game. Although everyone is relieved that he didn't get anything good since he opened the shop. The most powerful thing was the egg, but Hyun didn't know how to use it. He even got a siren's chant. Everyone in the room saw what he got and explained that he couldn't use them no matter how much control he had over himself. Until, in an extra twist, he got the ability Reaper's Chain. This skill is the complementary of all of them, an attack skill that made the others work perfectly, besides having a long range and wide radius of attack. Everyone in the room was stunned. They wanted to nerf Hyun and it seemed impossible, so they only had to keep monitoring him. Hyun happily seemed to be living a lie. He was getting more money and less stressed than in his previous job. He had earned his year's salary in just hours. This motivated him and his sister. Hyun decided to level up and went to kill more orcs in excess. Our boy goes to the village and sees the core where all the orcs are. He knows it won't be easy, there are more and of different kinds than in the previous one. The protagonist formulates a good plan. First, he uses his mermaid attraction skill and all the orcs divert their attentions to the song. The orcs find him and attack him. Hyun attacked them and positioned himself in the middle of them, and used his mowing chains skill just to make them dust in a matter of seconds. Thanks to this, the protagonist started to level up extremely fast, and not only that, he had also obtained some good items. Among them, he found a map that located the orc dungeon. The protagonist finds it and realizes that he is the first to find it. Being the first, he will have double the experience, but the entities would be stronger. The kind of entities that are in this dungeon are the spirits of the orcs that the protagonist had killed. These are not easy to defeat and to be killed. The Hyun would have to use skills to damage them. As he fights, he realizes how to kill them. Every hit that has combined skill will count as a critical hit, so the protagonist fights, kills them one after another, leveling up and clearing the dungeon at the same time. He knows that he will surely get a good reward. That encourages him and he keeps killing monsters. Hyun knows that he can't use his best skills until he reaches the boss to finish him quickly, so he does it manually. He keeps killing until he manages to finish them all. It was the end, or so he thought, until a giant orc that can use magic appears and resurrects everyone with twice the strength. It is the vengeful Orco Shaman. Everything indicated that it was the boss. Hyun is surprised. The orcs were more powerful and had changed everything. The fighting pattern was even different, and if it wasn't enough, the orc shaman is able to use attack spells. Hyun has no choice but to fight. Our boy was managing to kill the orcs. His sword sliced them like butter. Hyun manages to defeat the resurrected orcs, only the big one was left. He is even a little exhausted due to the lack of mana, which explains why the small ones were weakening. The protagonist takes advantage and attacks him, exchanging attacks until we see a winner. It was Hyun. The orc had fallen. Hyun was happy about two things: the items the orc has thrown, and that he only had to kill the boss. At the door, when he is about to enter, he is warned that there is still a first floor. Hyun was a little disappointed, but he had no choice. He had to go in and clean the first floor. He crosses the door and walks a bit to get to the first floor of the dungeon. Meanwhile, at the game creator's headquarters, they seem to be worried about Hyun. The game had been out for a year and the protagonist was behind. They didn't know how it was possible for someone new to level up so easily. There was one girl who was not convinced by the idea that Hyun is leveling up fast and easy. She thinks there is something else behind it all, because he chose to be a descendant of Thanatos, and that is an ability that no one wants. How would anyone pay so much just to sleep 10,000 hours? The boss asks about Hyun's monitoring. She replies that the dungeon is being cleared very fast and that he hasn't used his best skill to attack yet. The leader is worried. He has to think of something. Now we go to the mountain. It is a part of the game that even the higher ups have not reached. We can see that there is an intense fight against a Cyclops. There is a group fighting against this monster that seems not to be defeated easily. An attack is present on the battlefield. It seemed to be very strong reason why they all retreat, except the girl who carried out the attack. Something hits, leaving the Cyclops stunned for 5 seconds. The rest of the teams may take the opportunity to attack and kill the Cyclops, managing to rescue the girl who attacked with that big explosion, as she had also been stunned. The Cyclops left a great reward. Everyone was happy. These characters are a small elite group that formed their own guild. Being all of good rank, not everyone can enter. For that reason is that they are few. And they are also known to Hyun's sister, who is in the hospital curing her illness. The guild aims to clean and carry out raids to acquire wealth and awaken new abilities. The leader, called Rin Yuni, and the other companions who accompany her on each raid. The sorceress girl mentions Hyun. She says that the sister told her about him and that he was very good potential. Hearing this awakens her interests. They also explain how the theme of the game works. She explains that there are people who have their main account, focused on attacking and getting items, and the secondary account that is in charge of crafting to drop things to the main account. After the explanation, they leave.